And for that, I'm joined on set by Florence Villemino. Hello there. So we're going to start with the Washington shootings. They're continuing to grab headlines in U.S. press.
That's right. A lot of focus on the shooter, for instance. If we take a look at the front page of, the welcome page for the Huffington Post, it points out that he had visited a gun range just the day before the shooting. So a lot of focus on him and as well as on the victims. And then now, according to the Washington Post, this sense of shock and sadness is starting to give way now to anger and recrimination. This is the editorial of the Washington Post today that says that Monday's shooting should give urgency to efforts to enact more rational gun laws, basically laws that would ensure that it would be more difficult for the wrong person to get their hand on guns. And the Washington Post has very harsh words for the NRA, the National Rifle Association, and the power that it has on the government. And it says that the victims of Monday's shooting really deserve political leaders who have the guts to turn the NRA's nonsense into some sort of common sense. Now, there's also a sense of what now, another shooting, how many times is this going to happen? This is again in the Huffington Post that takes a look at this year in mass shootings. And you can see there all the shootings that have taken place since the Newton shooting. And there have been about 17 to be exact. And in fact, the Huffington Post also has a map. We can see just where these took place. Now, according to the Huffington Post, they're taking this calculation according to the FBI's definition of a mass murder, which is where 4 people or more are killed in a mass shooting. And so the Huffington Post says, these mass shootings are becoming way too commonplace, so much so that all of them aren't treated as national news.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that you have to have a figure like that you can so quantify so easily. All right, well, let's move on. We've got the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel. She's in the news ahead of Sunday's election there.
That's right. If we look at Der Spiegel, they take a look at how Germans would vote today, and you can see in a little graph on Der Spiegel that, her CDU party is leading the poll with a strong margin with just a couple of days ago, and it has so for the last couple of months. And Le Figaro, the French paper, looks at just why Angela Merkel is doing so well in the polls, and it says that she's being carried by the German miracle. Basically, Germany's resilience during the Euro crisis has really boosted her popularity. And the International Herald Tribune also points out that, she can be very confident for a victory on Sunday, as long as she beats her own worst enemy, and that is herself, according to the International Herald Tribune. It points out how much she actually hates campaign politics. It says that when it comes to elections, she's actually a really bad politician because she's never really managed to come across as being relaxed or show confidence on the campaign trail. And the International Herald Tribune wonders if, in fact, she might be too boring for Germany. And in the past 2 times she's been elected, she was really far ahead in the polls, but on election day, she didn't do as well. So the International Herald Tribune wonders if this could happen today. But it points out that these campaign weaknesses, being calm, being clinical, seeming maybe boring, actually are strengths once she's in office.
Well, also many papers now are exploring what this German election means for Europe.
As a whole, absolutely. Yeah. Well, The Guardian says this is an election actually that concerns all of us. It's hard to imagine any election in recent time in Europe that's mattered more to more people, according to The Guardian. The result of this election will matter, of course, for the Eurozone because Germany is the dominant economy, but it'll also be very important for the EU as a whole. And according to The Guardian, this election in Germany sets the agenda in Europe much more than, for instance, the American election.
All right, well, let's look at how papers in Bangladesh are reacting to the Supreme Court's death sentence for one of the leading Islamist leaders there.
That's right, Abdullah Mullah. He was sentenced to death for crimes against humanity that he carried out in 1971. Well, the Daily Star, a local paper there, applauds the government and says that there's a reason to feel satisfied by this verdict. But the New Nation, another paper, points out that there could be some more violence. Yesterday, we saw that there was a lot of very violent demonstrations after that verdict.
All right, and briefly, let's take a look at the consequences that work has on health and the environment and the economy.
That's right. Well, this is an article in the Independent that says that if you want to be healthier, if you want to save the planet and boost the economy, Well, you have to work less. It's kind of, well, perhaps not what you would think, but this is according to a very serious study that was carried out by a think tank called the New Economics Forum that's based in London. Now, this group of economists believe that the working week should go from about 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week, and they say that if people work less during the week, well, they'll be less likely to call in sick, they'll be more productive, and this will create more jobs. Also, they'll be less depressed and happier.
Well, I'm sure we can find plenty of support for that move right there. Florence Villemino with a look at the international press. Thank you for that. And do stay with us. Coming up after the break, we'll have more headlines as well as Focus, where we head to the Israeli-Syrian border, where some injured Syrian refugees are being granted access into Israel for treatment. Do stay tuned. You're watching France 24.